Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Basu and Godin Notebook. I am Marc-Antoine Godin with my friend Arpin Basu on this Friday, August 29th. Arpin, can you feel it in the air? Hockey is just around the corner now.
There's, when you wake up in the morning, it's not hot out. It's very pleasantly in the mid-teens. Crisp autumn air is starting to form. And so, yeah, hockey is in the air. And well, I'd like to hear from you because I am avoiding Brossard like the plague. Like any chance I have to not go to Brossard until the season actually starts, I'm going to do that. But you've been in Brossard a couple of times this week. What was the scene like, including today? What was the scene over there, and how many players are there getting ready, and what do they look like?
Well, hockey is around the corner when you go to Brossard, because for most of the summer, there was like half a dozen guys who were there. Laine, Demidov, Suzuki being regular customers there. Others would come and go, but now things are really ramping up. You've got north of 15 guys. On Thursday, there were more than 15 guys who were there. You got regular NHLers, some guys who are more destined to the Laval Rocket, Kent's sons who also are taking part in the in the training sessions. But most, there's a lot of Canadiens players there today. Maybe not. We barely got to 15, but there was a scrimmage, which is interesting. With referees and all. Serious stuff.
Oh, there were referees. Wow.
Oh
okay.
yeah.
It's not just pickup hockey then. Okay.
That's it. So
yeah.
I mean, you have on a daily basis, you've got Adam Nicholas, who's there, obviously director of hockey development for the Canadiens. The regular coaches cannot attend, so he's supervising those training sessions. And today he was there, and so was Kirby Dach, who had taken a break on Thursday. Perhaps I think also on Wednesday. I'm not entirely sure about it, but he took part into that scrimmage today. So. There's been a lot of talk about whether or not he would be ready to start the season. Did he suffer a setback in him, coming back from his knee surgery? I don't know if he's going to be ready or not to start the season. Kent Hughes hinted at NHL.com the other day that he might miss the first couple of weeks or so, or at least not be there for the first game of the season. But to have him play in a scrimmage prior to training camp, I think it's a positive development, and it's a sign that things are not as bleak as some suggested to be.
Right. How would you describe the pace of that scrimmage?
Oh, it was a bit wonky. It's rusty. There was some.
I'm just asking because, what is the level of risk in Kirby Dach? That's what I would be encouraged. Because there is some risk, right, in a scrimmage environment, no matter how low the pace is. You have guys skating around, collisions could happen, and what have you. So if they feel comfortable enough to let Dach participate in the scrimmage, then he can't be that far from being healthy, right? It's like it's yeah.
I think what's always the risk is when it starts getting a bit the one-on-one battles and the contacts can put the body in awkward positions every now and then. So there was not much of that at all, but you could see some bursts of speed at some point. He saw he got an outlet pass and he saw that there was an opening for a counterattack with speed. And so he skated with the puck through the middle, through the neutral zone with, interesting speed. And that was good to see, so it's just getting ready, getting acclimatized again. He's not at the level that some others have been. I mean, Lane Hutson's been flying out there. Ivan Demidov has been flying out there. But we're talking about guys who are, who don't hesitate to spend 2 sessions per day on the ice. Yesterday, Ivan Demidov, he was on the ice at 10 o'clock in the morning and again at 4:30 for a second session with David Reinbacher. So he's Dach is on a different schedule, obviously, and I think that they're going to make sure that he doesn't skip any significant steps. But yeah, we're going to see him sooner rather than later. Can't imagine.
Yeah, well, and that's always been, like last season when Reinbacher came back and he went to Laval, they micromanaged his return to play, right? They really were very meticulous. Nothing, there was never really a significant setback in his recovery either, but the Canadiens were overly cautious with his
Yeah,
return, as how Kent termed it at the time. I think he might have had a minor setback at one point. Like there was some pain in the knee that sort of flared up, um, and so they managed it. But there was a clear return to play protocol that the Canadiens had instituted in Reinbacher's case, which I imagine coming off surgery on the same knee for a second year in a row with Dach, is going to be even more heightened. So yeah, we could. I mean, we likely will, I guess, see him in training camp. Um, and that could still delay his start if the Canadiens decide to take a similarly cautious approach to his recovery, because obviously they do not. A third injury on that knee would probably be somewhat career threatening, you would think. So, I mean, I think they would do everything in their power to avoid that. And at the same time, for a second year in a row, if not a third year in a row, Kirby Dach to me is like the most consequential player in training camp in the sense that if it's not just this season, but the entire build of the Canadiens is somewhat dependent on Kirby Dach figuring something out and clearly picking a lane and creating an identity for himself in the NHL, and so that some organizations could look at that and be like, well, let's get him on the ice. We got to get him into game action as soon as possible. I think the prudent and smart way to do it is to be overly cautious in his case and make sure that these health issues are either in the past, or if another one pops up, that it not be because of some sort of mismanagement of this injury, um, and give him every chance to succeed this season because it's a contract year for him. The
yeah,
Canadiens need to make a decision on him. He needs to prove himself as being part of this core that the Canadiens envisioned him being when they acquired him. And so it's really the biggest year of his career, and it's the biggest element of this rebuild that remains in question. We can all see what they've done, and there's a lot to like in what's happened in the rebuild. The one issue is the lack of depth at the center position, which is a big issue. Um, Whether Dach can address that or not is probably the biggest question mark facing the overall rebuild, to be honest. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Canadiens handle that. If anything, if I had to guess, they're probably going to err on the side of caution. And so if you don't see Dach to start the season, and even if that drags on for a little while longer than maybe you anticipated, I think it would be smart to look at it as just the Canadiens making sure that at some point this season they get a good runway of Kirby Dach hockey to evaluate what they have in this player and to give him a chance to show them what he has.
yeah. And I think on a very short term, when you talk about return to play protocol, it's interesting that he takes part into a scrimmage on a Friday, presumably having Saturday and Sunday off the ice. It can, after a more testing exercise like that, you can see how the knee reacts and come back Monday or Tuesday and say, okay, well, we'll go at it again if the signs are
Mhm.
positive. So no, you're right. I think that they've got every reason in the world to be cautious. I think that the whole team is aware that they need to start the season on time, that they need to rack up as many points as possible. But if they are to lose Dach early and for an extended period of time, they won't. They won't be better off that way. So they have other alternatives. In the meantime, none of whom are ideal, I would say. But it was
Mhm.
interesting to note that on Tuesday, Alex Newhook participated in a little face-off session with young Sharks forward Will Smith with none other than Patrice Bergeron. So
Yeah, that
that's
was a Cortex. That was a Cortex thing. Right? I think
that's it.
that was a Cortex event. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. I
that
mean,
that
it's
happened on Tuesday.
hey
So
man, if Patrice is looking for a job, I mean, I don't know why the Bruins haven't already hired him to do this, but if he's
yeah.
available, I
Do you
would.
think he would do that? Like being associated with the Montreal Canadiens, I think if there's one guy who would never feel comfortable, who would go like, "Oh," that would be Patrice
That would be
Bergeron.
Patrice Bergeron, and he still lives in Boston, right? I mean, he hasn't uprooted himself back to Quebec, you know. So yeah, I don't like his kids are Boston kids. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
was like they grew up there, that they identify with Boston. I would imagine he's still there. I ran into him um, at the Four Nations tournament. I don't know if you were in that hallway waiting to go into the room, but he was just standing there with his kids waiting to go talk to Brad Marchand and Sid, I guess. But you know, a little chit chat, and he was very happy in Boston. Like kind of the retired life was suiting him well. But yeah, I mean, if he wants to, I
Yeah,
would imagine
yeah,
the Bruins have an open offer. I would imagine to him as soon as he's ready to jump back in if he wants to. But yeah, Newhook getting better in the faceoff circle, and frankly, Dach getting better in the faceoff circle, and just finding anyone, frankly, who can win faceoffs for the Canadians is, you know, they do have Mark Bureau, was an excellent faceoff guy in his time, and is seemingly a well appreciated tutor or mentor in this area. But I find it interesting, you know, Zach Blodzik mentioning that the Canadians asked him to work on faceoffs this summer. Slavkovsky doing the Bureau sessions last year. Like, it really doesn't matter who takes the faceoff, right? I mean, I think Dach is an excellent center. If you take the faceoff out of it, he
yeah.
operates well in the middle of the ice. You know, like I like him skating up the middle of the ice. I think he likes it. He likes having the options as he enters the zone to be in the middle, not be sort of glued against a wall. And so, really, whoever takes the faceoff, it's fine. I mean, Claude Giroux basically is a winger now, right? But he takes a ton of faceoffs. Um, they just need to find someone who can win their fair share of them, and if they do that, then Doc's viability as a second line center increases, right? If you can put him with someone who can just take draws for him, um, I like his chances of being a pretty decent 2C, assuming he could stay healthy, which obviously he hasn't been able to do yet. Just on a pure talent and kind of profile of a player, um, I like his profile as a
Yeah.
2C. It's just, you know,
It
it's
hasn't
again,
materialized yet. Let's just put this.
it has not. It has not come close to materializing yet, and so this is why I feel bad for him. You know, I really hope, for his sake, he's able to get through a year healthy. That's
Yeah.
really because it doesn't take long to get labeled as injury prone, which there's no objective way to look at Kirby Dach's career and say anything else about it.
Mm.
Like that's what he's been. So let's see. There's a lot riding on him being able to stay healthy. So hopefully for the Canadiens' sake, he can do that.
Otherwise, in Brossard, there was saw a lot of Patrick Laine, Ivan Demidov, and Lane Hudson passing the puck to each other. I asked Lane Hudson, who had a media availability associated with some charity event on Thursday, if he thought that there could be a connection there between Laine and Demidov, because we've been talking often about where exactly could Laine play and with whom.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Listen, it's been 2 days, couple of practices, but there's really I can clearly see that there's something developing, something that clicks between those two guys, and it's I think that it could be an interesting gamble if you have Laine there, who's entering the last year of his contract, who's eager to show that he can bring his game to another level. Clearly, he has put on the work this summer to elevate his game. And if you were to pair him with, the new kid in town, the guy who's the favorite to win the Calder Trophy, and there might be also a complement aspect in their respective games. It could be an interesting move to see maybe Demidov arriving in the NHL, but being responsible, at least in part, in reviving Laine and helping him get to the level that he can go. So I don't know if there are a lot more forwards right now on the Montreal Canadiens roster who are better suited to play with Laine than Demidov. So I'm curious to see, when training camp is going to start, if it's an experiment that Martin St. Louis is going to try. But those
Well,
two seem to be getting along well on the ice.